Hello, everyone. Last week I said I was going to read some Washington Irving tales to you, but I'm going to take a slight deviation from that and go into a little bit more familiar territory based on some things that happened to me today. Let me head over to the bookshelf and grab something for you. I had this one out because I had assigned it to my son to read for his homeschooling. This Side of Wild by Gary Paulsen. Still getting used to the opposite movements that you do on cameras. Paulsen is always easy, familiar ground to retreat to when, based on what's happening in my life. Today, the short version is that we had to put my dog down, who we've had for the last 10 years. I'm not the kind of person that refers to myself as a dog dad or anything like that. But, he was family. My wife and I got him shortly after our first anniversary. And within a couple of weeks of getting him, we found out she was pregnant with our oldest son. And so very quickly, having a small puppy around the house became sort of a primer for becoming parents. Realizing that you've got to be kind of on the schedule of this tiny little thing that's reliant on you, and you've got to be careful about what you leave down because the little critter will get into it, and if it's a dog, he'll chew it up. If it's a little kid, he might choke on it, so you got to be careful. He was diagnosed with canine diabetes a couple of months ago, and he did well for a while on the medication, but he just deteriorated very rapidly. And the short version is my wife called me while I was at work today. I was able to get some help from the brass. They sent somebody in to cover my route so that I could come home and, get my dog taken care of. Which I'm very, very grateful for. I didn't actually think that they'd do it. I told my wife I would ask, and they pulled through for me. So, very grateful to have that support where I work. But as we took him across town to the vet to put him to sleep, I found myself thinking about a lot of the Gary Paulsen stories that I've heard over the years about different dogs that he had throughout his life. When I read Wood Song, when I read Winter Dance, you learn that he treated these dogs as the same way that he would treat human beings. In fact, he got along with the dogs a great deal better than he got along with human beings. And I got to thinking about some stories that he shared in here, specifically of the little poodle that you see there on the cover. That's based on a story that happened in the book when he went up to Alaska to train for the Iditarod. He wanted to have some company. He was away from his wife and his family, and so he got a little dog just to have around the cabin where he was working when he was drilling post holes in the ground for putting the stakes down where he was going to stake the sled dogs every night. And he'd rented this post hole digger, and after he'd gotten the dog, he heard this high-pitched metallic sound that he thought was something going wrong with the engine on the post hole digger, and oh crap, it's running out of oil, it's making this sound. So he goes and shuts it down so that he can check the fluids, and that way he doesn't destroy a rental that he'd then be responsible for. But when the engine shuts down and he still hears the dog, and he looks over, and that's what the sound was. He looks over at the cabin, and the dog, this little 20-pound poodle, is yip, 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 yipping at the window, and very, very agitated about something. He turns around and looks in the other direction, and there's a big old grizzly bear sitting at the edge of the clearing looking at the cabin and looking at the area where he was drilling the holes for these stakes. And, this poodle was getting ready to go to war for her human. There was another story in here. Oh, geez. It doesn't help that the dog in this picture, which is a completely different story, looks a lot like my dog. He was an Australian Shepherd. There was another story that he shared about when he went to go help an uncle of his during the lambing season on his, I guess it's a ranch. I know it's a ranch if it's cattle. Maybe there's a different word if it's sheep. But he had some very emotional and moving stories to tell about the sheepdog that was there to protect the other sheep, from the coyotes and whatnot that would try to pick off the small ones and stuff. And the dog tolerated Paulsen well enough and even got along with him until at one point a coyote, broke in and was trying to kill some of the lambs, and Paulsen carried a gun on him. He didn't like to use it. He didn't like to hurt animals, but his job was to be there to protect the sheep. And so, he pulled the gun out and he shot the coyote, but because of the timing, there was no way to avoid shooting one of the sheep as well, and the dog saw it. And the dog tolerated his help with the sheep, but she never trusted him after that. The dog didn't understand that it was inevitable, that there was a weapon involved, that acted in this manner. She just knew that the human fired a weapon and killed one of the sheep. Dogs are very intelligent creatures, and they are very emotionally adept, and that was certainly true for my dog, Bo Duke. He was very, very loyal. Classic case of... it's not that I didn't want a dog, it's just we were at a point in our lives where, we were getting ready to save up money to try to buy our first house, and my wife was just like, oh, I want a little puppy, and it didn't help that we'd gone to visit some friends who bought these purebred mini Aussies from a breeder in Utah, and she kind of got the fever, and, I'm partial to going to the pound and adopting a dog that needs a home, but she wanted specifically an Aussie, and they're brilliant dogs. My brother had one, my mom had one. They're great dogs. So we went and got one, and, not that I was opposed to it or anything, or even necessarily reluctant. It just wasn't something I wanted to get involved with. And of course we go and get the dog from this breeder, and while my wife is handling the card and the payment and stuff, I grabbed this little fur ball and immediately bond to him, and before too long he became my dog. He was excited to see me when I came home. He'd come when I called him. He'd answer when I gave him an order. He was there through all of it. He was there through all of our kids coming home, through 2 moves to different houses, to different cars that we've had, to adventures we'd gone on, and he was a constant. I'm going to turn 38 this summer, and he was in our lives for the last 10 years. I mean, that's a quarter of my life. I had a dog in my childhood that we put down when I was 21, and she'd been there for 2/3 of my life. It doesn't take long for these animals to be there for a significant portion. Quarter is less than 2/3, but he was there for like all of the big, meaningful moments of my adult years. Going through that, all the great memories that I had with him, as well as, now putting him to sleep and having him gone, it just gets me thinking about all the stuff that Paulsen went through with all of his dogs and the stories that he shared in the numerous books that he's written over the years. Not that I have like anything super profound to say or to even add to it. It's just, this is why I read so much, because I'm a writer. I don't have to write every single thing and put it out into the world. It's sometimes it's also a matter of just reading something that somebody else has written and say, man, I get it. And I think he did a great job. I think he said it a lot better than I could when he talks about the relationships that he's had with these animals over his lifetime. And, rather than me try to put it in my own clumsy words and have people find value in any story I might tell on that front, I'd rather just point people to his work. Gary Paulsen knew what he was talking about. He's, I often say he's the only vegetarian that I don't make fun of. And it's all tongue-in-cheek, but he stopped eating meat once he realized that dogs were capable of a sense of humor. And as he also noted in Winter Dance, he saw bison playing games on the ice in Alaska. So yeah, animals have souls. It's not going to stop me from eating steak. I do love me some cow, but the cows also aren't staying in my house and attacking the fence every time they go outside to make sure that nobody gets in the territory, So anyway, I'm rambling now, but just wanted to kind of clear my head of what I'm feeling right now and kind of point you guys in a direction of the things that give me comfort in difficult times. You know, my older brother, I call him Dr. Farmer. He's got a PhD and he's got a farm in Ohio. You know, he lost a dog not too long ago, and you know, he jumped on a text with me and my little brother, Captain Firefighter, and it was similar in tone to what I'm saying now. He goes, you know, I don't really have anything conclusive to say about it. I just didn't want to be alone in it. And it's been a long time since I had to put a dog down, but on a day like today, I get what he means. So that's my thought on that subject. Thank you for allowing me to just kind of push it all out there and share it with you. If you haven't read this particular book, it's, like I said, it's called This Side of Wild. It's a short one. I assigned it to my son to read, as I mentioned. The reading level, it's very accessible. The stories are true, and it makes them very relatable and very heartfelt. Hey, look, there you go. There's a little poodle going at it at the window. It's stories like this that make me miss Paulsen, but it makes me grateful that he worked so hard to write so much and share his stories with the world. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.